Hello everyone, this is Cremechiss. Please don't ask what it means. Even we won't be able to answer. Even we don't know actually what it means. But we've decided to call us that. Uh, Today we're gonna talk about everything everywhere all at once. Uh, this is uh, this is different from what we do usually. We usually do listicles of a lot of other things, but this would be like one of those one-off episodes where we'll be talking about a specific movie. But I just want to tell you guys that please don't expect us to review every single movie that comes out. The reason why we'll be having like one-off episodes like this is because we feel very passionate about the about the movie. And yeah, everything everywhere all at once was that movie for us. So yeah, I don't know how long this will take. Maybe we'll be splitting it into two parts. We'll see where it goes. So, Surbi, you want to go?
Of course. Welcome, everybody. I think this is the first singular movie we'll be discussing, and feel free to let us know if there were other awesome movies like this as well. Uh, Particularly this movie, Everything Everywhere at Once, the reason it is so awesome is because it is about very traditional storytelling, which hasn't happened in a long time. Uh, when you look at the concept of multiverse storytelling, there is generally a very in depth explanation of the reason the multiverse has exploded at this particular amount of time. However, with everything everywhere all at once, the star of the story is the protagonist. And yes, while that sounds cliche, please keep in mind that the protagonist is a 40 something mother who works in a laundromat and is extremely upset, disappointed, is kind of drowning in her life. She has a very traditional story of where she ran away with the man she was in love with, married him, and they started the laundromat together. But life didn't turn out as she planned, and she is kind of navigating her way through her disappointments, and that is why we need to look at the story from the perspective of not this overall fancy protagonist who already has a great bunch of skills, is very good at what they do, but they're just hard on luck. This is none of those things. This is about the worst possible version of a protagonist and why she becomes the hero of her story.
So, I want to like kind of want to talk about your overview and build up on what I love about the movie. The fact that you've talked so much about the movie and yet haven't even touched the most important, like most important the most prominent thing in the movie, which is the parallel universe, which is the multiverse. Okay, and that's the reason for me why this movie works so much, why this movie distinguishes itself from the other multiverse movies. It's like we have got like so many multiverse movies, like the recent Doctor Strange and so many others. There was one in the 90s, which I think it was called Stay Tuned, and I think in our times the most prominent show that has done this is Rick and Morty, right? But what I think about this movie is that what this movie does differently than these movies and shows is that it doesn't weave its story around the multiverse. It's the opposite of it. The multiverse kind of wraps itself around the story, and that is what I love about them. Like when I was watching, when I started the movie, obviously I was dumbfounded as to what I was seeing. But like towards halfway, I sort of I was actually scared as to how they're going to end this without actually telling us. I thought like they have to tell us now why this is happening or why they're doing this, or they have to touch on the human part of it, human emotional part of it. Otherwise, this movie doesn't work. And that's what they did, you know. Of course, the multiverse is a big thing in the movie, but they sort of don't make it the only thing. Again, the distinguishing factor here is that other movies tell you what happens in multiverse. Here we get to know why it's happening. You know? And what a brilliant way to show, like what a brilliant setup for the multiverse, right? Like it's such a common thing. Like we think of multiverse movies and we think all like larger than life characters and everything. This is the first time where we have seen a normal person's parallel universes. And what a great concept. Like obviously we as humans, we always have regrets, we always think about the decisions in our life, and to
Yes, the
make,
what ifs.
yeah, and to make
Absolutely.
those our decisions as part of like parallel universes. What if we would have like done this, and
So,
that branches out to another universe? That's such a great setup.
extending on the topic, now this is where it gets interesting. So, whoever watches this film has a different way of looking at the same story. So, like you said, the multiverse wraps around the person, and it wraps around the person in the terms of the decisions they would have made and how those trees have branched out in other universes.
Hmm.
uh, there is a very big part of the story which is about generational trauma, which is about parental trauma, stuff that you incur in legacy from your parents. Is not always skills, it's not always money, it's all also sometimes the inability to be able to look past them rejecting you, them not honoring your decisions, them kind of complaining about your mistakes. And I'm sure anybody who is currently uh, on maybe the other side of events, especially when you look at how the story is, right? So anyone who has made a bunch of decisions in their life, they there are two sets of people: people who got the support from their parents, and then people who got no support from their parents. But the irony is, and it will always be, even the ones who get support from their parents get a lot of questions and doubts from their parents about why we are doing what we are doing. And that's kind of the storyline. So the protagonist, when the reason she elopes with the love of her life is because she realizes very quickly that there isn't any um, scope in being able to pursue what her parents are expecting her to do for the rest of her life, which is why she makes a decision, because that's the first thing he tells her, that I'll give you a great life. We will figure this out on our own, the two of us. We'll do something so great and so spectacular. Everything will be fine. And her father watches her as she gets in that car and she leaves, and he resents her and he's angry with her
Hmm.
for going against his decisions. And when she is, of course, and we don't know what happens, right? We don't know what would have happened had she stayed at this point in the film. So when she is introduced to this new life, her husband basically like shows this bright and shiny new laundromat, and he's like, "Look, this is ours, and we're going to make money running this laundromat." And if you think about it, when you leave home, everything is bright and shiny and new and adventurous, and every risk seems like it paid off. And that's kind of what she is. Like, she's taking this risk, she's taking this adventure, and there is so much to it that you can relate. Anybody who has just recently left home, who has moved away from their parents, if you have at any given point of time, or you've just started a new job, and you're still maybe near your parents or living with your parents, you will feel so much enchantment with that life, so
Mhm.
much joy in that life. And that's kind of, for me at least, when I see that, it's like, oh my god, like, what were my parents worried about? They keep warning me about the great issues of life all the time, and nobody ever takes into consideration that I, an individual, can make great decisions in my life and I'll be happy, and my parents were wrong about everything. And that's the first thing you learn about the character the second the movie starts, that she is just like us. She has not done anything different than us till this point in the film.
Yeah, totally. Okay, one thing I wanted to ask, by the way, whoever's listening, this is the first time we're talking about the movie. We both have seen it like weeks back, and but this is the
At
first time
different
we,
times. Hmm.
yeah. Uh, but the reason why we wanted to talk about it first time in the podcast is because we want to make the discussion as organic as possible. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is what was the deal with the divorce papers? Those are the divorce papers,
So
right?
yes, so the deal with the divorce papers, I think it had something to do with tax filing, because there was an issue with the taxes. So I do remember that that kept coming up, and maybe we can address that throughout the story later on. But I think the reason it had to do with the taxes, it also had to do with the fact that she was so upset with him all the time that he just wanted out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the story kind of, at least in the beginning, it seemed like it was about tax purpose, and then it kind of boiled down into the fact that, that this is just not working out. Like, we are just not happy together anymore, or something like that. But I'm not exactly sure. I think the it'll make more sense as you and I talk about it. But
Yeah. No,
there is a part.
what I did not understand is like I don't remember the divorce paper thing being touched later on in the story. It just comes up in the beginning while they are going towards the lift, and it just doesn't come up later. You obviously get to see the uh, movie star version conversation about them of what it would have been if they get divorced. So that thing we see, but yeah, I don't remember that coming up. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. Mm, cool. Okay, one thing which I loved about that version of hers, the one that she's most, the real version, is most fascinated by, is the movie star version of hers, right? And I would have been so pissed if, like, later on in the movie, we get to find out that even though she liked this version in the beginning, and now she can see like flaws in it. No, that did not happen. Like, it was exactly what she wanted that version to be. She, like, from the time she's facing problems in her actual life, she has been like mentally going into that version of us, of what it would have been if she did not run away with her. So
Mhm,
when she goes back and sees that universe where she's successful and she did not marry him, I love that they did not make that universe perfect in the start and then find flaws in it. It was perfect right from the start till the end. But she still realized that even though that universe is perfect, she could choose to be in that universe. But eventually, in the end, she decides to be with the version that she right now is.
mhm.
It sort of like makes me feel like, even though
It's,
you have
I
regrets in life, you still
yeah,
own up to it because it's
yeah,
it's another version. Your past version is again another version of you, right? Maybe.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
own up to
That's
it.
true.
That is a version that has made a
That's true.
decision for you.
So let's come a little back. I feel like we've skipped a massive part of the
No,
storyline.
we are
So
gonna be as non-linear as the movie. Okay,
okay.
what do you want to talk about first?
So there is one part about the story where she has to address her. Like I said earlier, a massive portion of the storyline is about her having to address the current issues in her current life. So keep in mind that the father that rejected her, that did not support her in her decision, is currently living with her. He is very still kind of very irritable about what is happening around him, but he lives with her. She takes care of him. She runs the laundromat, does the bills, does everything all on her own, and she's basically the movie opens with her getting ready for this party that they are throwing in the laundromat for appreciating their customers, for being their customers for this long. And you can see that the father's kind of in and out of the scenes. He's kind of sick. He's kind of incoherent at some point, but also his presence is a very, it's a very domitable presence. Like, you know that she's still a little scared around him.
mm,
And along with her husband, being the exact opposite of her father, where he puts little googly eyes on things. So
mm,
that that part of the story I absolutely adore, because he puts googly eyes on everything to kind of give it, I don't know, like sentience in some ways. If there's a trash bag, he puts googly eyes on and, and he's kind of like, it's okay, it's like, it's so cute, like it has these googly eyes, and you can see her getting angry and ripping it off of every bag. And the divorce papers were her idea, right? Like, I'm I feel like I'm not exactly sure in that point over there.
No, I'm not sure because like I didn't understand the first conversation where they talk about the divorce paper. So I think I missed that only. So it did not
Oh,
release in the country. It hasn't released in the country as of today. So obviously I caught a flight to US and saw it and wink wink.
okay, fine. So
But yeah,
uh
even like when I was watching it, I rewinded it and I did not understand.
okay, so let's first talk about Evelyn and Waymond then, right? So
Yeah.
Waymond is the person who brought up the divorce, or has drafted up the divorce. And Evelyn is the one who's mad at him, and she's mad at the laundromat, so she's the protagonist. Evelyn also has a daughter. Her name is Joy. She has a girlfriend who's Becky, who's, again, this is an Asian family, and Joy is dating this very white girl, and it's like shock on shock. So it's not just that she's gay; it's also that she's dating a white girl and not an Asian girl. And I think that's also interesting when you see how Evelyn addresses uh, Joy's relationship, and she seems on the surface to be okay with it, because there is a line in the story where she says, um I have I'm look at me, like I'm so open minded. I have concept of understanding that you're dating a woman, and I understand that this is your sexuality. And how many mothers will let their daughters, let being the operative word, date another woman?
Mhm.
And that is very interesting to me, like when that happens, because then I thought about every instance about my parents saying, like, how many parents will let their kids do this? And and then when you think of it as a child, it is one thing, but when you're a grown adult, and when that statement comes up, it's like, what do you mean let? I,
Mhm.
you don't own me. I mean, obviously I will make my own decisions, like you don't have to approve of them, but you know and then that part is woof, that part gets very tough very quickly for me, like even before the story unravels, it gets very tough very quickly for me. So I don't know, but yeah, you're right, there is a part of the divorce papers, and I think this is because they are unhappy. I think it's
Yeah.
part because of the tax fraud that they're facing. So there's something going on with the laundromat at that point of time, and that kind of opens up the whole story, that she is facing some issues from the tax department, that there are some things that she has put down as write-offs, but they should not be write-offs. So they have to go address this with the tax officer or whatever, and figure out how they can save the laundromat, while simultaneously preparing for this laundromat party. So keep in mind that technically the story is of a day and a half,
Yeah, you can say that.
right? It's not, the story is about
It surely doesn't feel like.
it doesn't feel like it, but the story, I think, if you see in actual timelines, it starts in the morning and it spills over, I think, into the next day a little bit. But it's not about like a months long, a years long story. It's literally about like a couple of hours.
Mhm.
And but yeah, there is so much beauty in the story.
And what a way
uh
to what a way
mhm.
to do exposition, right? Like till they reach the IRS office, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Till the
yeah.
part one, everything starts. What a way to
Mhm.
do exposition, right? What a way to set up characters and the environment
Yes,
and everything. That
yes.
reminded me of how Hot Fuzz did it. Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead did it. The way the
Hot.
editing happens, it's like slick, 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 fast, 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 like that.
Yes, yes, yes. uh I think we see the multiverse bleeding into the current timeline right from the beginning, where
Mhm.
the husband kind of starts showing these weird
Yeah,
kung fu moves where he like jumps around the entire laundromat.
that's the
We see it.
alpha women.
And I also like that there is, okay,
I wanted
let's
like
talk.
uh, I wanted one of the versions to be like white versions of that. That would have been amazing.
Can you imagine? But weirdly, there is a universe where Evelyn is with the IRS officer who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And she
Oh
has
yeah,
weird hands. She has weird hands in that
sausage
universe.
fingers.
Sausage hands in that universe.
Wow,
Woof. There
dude,
is,
this is the
okay.
first time I've seen Jamie Lee Curtis like this. She's either playing the sexy character or she's the scream queen. I've never seen
So,
Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, never
yeah.
seen her. Yeah, I've never seen her do this kind of a role.
I've seen her do an offbeat role in New Girl, where she plays Zoe Deschanel's, or the protagonist's mother. And
Oh.
she's just like this very free spirited, very perky character who, like, at a very typical, again, she plays a very, this is so weird that there are parallels to the characters playing other characters in other storylines, but she plays a mom over there who basically, when the protagonist has her first, like, not her first, but a very emotional, gut wrenching breakup, when she calls up her mother, and she says, "Oh my God, my boyfriend Nick and I broke up." And Jamie Lee Curtis goes, "Oh no, how could this happen?" And she's sobbing. She's like, "Oh my God, Mom, I didn't know you wanted Nick and me to last." She's like, "It's not about that. What about my grandchildren?" And she's basically like reacting like every mom. And you can kind of see that in this storyline, it is again about like moms being moms. And Jamie Lee Curtis is not a mom in this story at all, but my God, that woman has range. She can do pretty much anything,
Seriously.
anything she decides. Like, she's so wow. Like, the story also, we have to keep in mind that uh, she was very blatant about how she was going to come across in the story. So when the movie was about to be released, she spoke about um how she didn't wear Spanx or anything to like look, slender or anything.
Mhm.
Like, she had a pot belly, and she kind of, yeah. And she's like, IRS officers, they look like a particular way, and I look a particular way, and I would like to continue to like be able to portray that while I'm acting, because one has nothing to do with the other.
Is
And
that
I
her
thought
real
that was,
body?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I can confirm, but I think that's what it was, where she said that she didn't want to
It was like
wear.
Halloween came out last year, right? The latest album. She didn't look like
Yeah.
that last year.
So okay, so everyone assumes that her belly in the movie is a prosthetic, but it's actually her real belly,
Oh damn.
and she was grateful that she was allowed to just let it out,
Yes.
as per her.
This reminds me of that
But
of what happened with Kate Winslet in the, was that Mayor of Easttown, where
mhm.
she had a sex scene with that dude. I don't know, I forgot who played that. Who played her love interest in it?
I don't remember. I really, I have like no memory of this. She literally says, um, she just wanted to be able to be as is, not have to worry about wearing Spanx, not have to worry about looking slender for the role. She's like, I just wanted to be able to play myself while being in this storyline. And that's pretty much what happened. She just didn't wear Spanx. She didn't wear a pants that goes over her belly. And you can see that she, even when she sits, like she sits like, like to like show it more. Like that's what I love in this in the movie. Like when Jamie Lee Curtis like comes first time on the scene, it starts off with her face and then it expands out, and then when she's getting like exhausted talking to this family, you can see that her pot belly comes out, and I think that's awesome. Like I love it.
That happened with Kate Winslet, remember? Let's talk. Saying she had a sex scene with love interest. I forgot the name of the actor, and they wanted to CGI her love handles, and she didn't allow them to do that.
Like I mean, and the thing is, okay, this is the thing that I want to understand now. Like, and whoever's listening, please explain this to us if you believe otherwise. Do y'all really care if Kate Winslet's love handles are seen? Because it's Kate Winslet. Do you really care? Because I really want to understand the criteria behind people doing this in movies. It happened with what's that singer's name? Megan Trainor, who sang all about that bass. So in one particular music video, she was wearing like a very beautiful blue shiny dress, and everything was fine on the day of the shoot. And then when she saw the release version, she saw that they had tapered her waistline,
Hmm.
and then she immediately released what she was looking like on the day, and then what they edited, and she puts like, I thought my waist was looking pretty bomb that day, but I'm not sure why they were not happy with that or something like that. And she immediately put side by side images to show who she really, like what she really looks like and what they did to her in the video.
Oh,
And they had to take it down or something. And this is okay. Again, I really want to ask, when people are watching this and when they just show the woman as is, especially when it is like Kate Winslet, especially when it is like in an intimate scene, does it really matter? Like, do people really care? Because I honestly, when that scene happened, I didn't even realize that, oh, that's Kate Winslet's like love handles. Oh my god, like she was always curvy. Even in Titanic, she wasn't like some skinny person. She was a curvy person, even in the Titanic, wasn't she?
yep.
Like she, she, I, I really want to understand this weird obsession, because people who are watching this, at least in today's times, are they really watching it to be able to see like some pelvis bones, like how when the Victoria's Secret models, when they walk down, you can see like every bone on their waist. Like, is that what they're looking for? Because I'm pretty sure when people are watching content, they don't care about what the bodies look like. Also, I'm pretty sure that even in that form, she still has like all her admirers, waiting to throw themselves at her feet, because she looked so good. She looked so good in Mare of Easttown. Like, I still don't
Hmm.
understand. like what is the issue? Like Jamie Lee Curtis in everything, she looked good. That woman looked good. She played her character so well, and honestly, I adored everything that she did. Like every version of her. There's a monster version of her. There is a married to the protagonist version of her with
Awesome.
hot dog fingers, and she's just, I don't know. I feel like especially when these legends come out, we've seen them. What was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where she um,
True Lies.
seduces True Lies? So it there's a scene where she, I think, rips off her dress so that she can look
Oh
sexier,
yeah, I remember that scene.
and
I remember that
that's
scene quite a few times.
the okay, wonderful. Congratulations to you. That is
This came
fabulous.
out in that the movie came out in '94, so sexual awakening period. No, sorry,
Movie came out in
I
94.
was 2 years.
Sexual awakening period for, okay, Jamie Lee. I got it. That is fabulous. That is so. But I'll tell you something. I I would watch that film and go like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is so lucky, and I would not understand the allure of Arnold Schwarzenegger, because I think that is an age 12, 13, where you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger and go, oh, like that's like dad, like that's not a person you can like lust after or have a crush on or whatever. It's like, oh, okay. But I loved the story, and I love that idea of being able to transform your dress anywhere in the world. And yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is,
And the
she's
water that she
king.
takes from the flower pot.
Oh, to like slick her hair back. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. I My God, it took so little to impress us, right? Like now there is so much. Even look at everything everywhere all at once. There is so much
Hmm.
um context to context, foreshadowing to
Yeah,
foreshadowing.
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing.
There is
That's what I loved about the movie is that it doesn't fully rely on these things. It eventually
no.
boils down to why they're doing it. It's
Yeah.
showing the relationships between these two.
Hmm.
By the way, I was talking about Edgar Wright, right? I was talking about how it reminded me of Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. So there are things on the internet which where people are saying that some scenes remind them of specific filmmakers' works. Like for example, the conversation that they have in the movie star version of her that reminded them of In the Mood for Love, where they are uh, having a conversation in the alleyway in the dark
Hmm.
of what could have been and everything. Remember that scene? So that people were reminded of Wong Kar Wai doing In the Mood for Love. Then what
Okay.
else? There are like a bunch of things. I'll share that.
I disagree with that, but okay. Mood for okay.
Why not?
I mean, I don't think that's what was happening. I think the
I think
alley scene with
no, but then
confronting each other.
that reminds you of uh, the stairs in the Mood for Love, right? Where they pass each other every day. Didn't that scene look similar?
Okay.
Just two people conversing with each other, and the lighting and everything. It was very similar to those things.
Okay. Well, I don't think they were in any way. If that was the intent, I don't think it landed for me, because for me it was her basically being alone
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
in her
what
life.
they're talking
That's what that
about,
meant to
what they're talking about is not the. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the lighting and the technical aspect.
me. Okay. Okay.
What else? What are
So
we talking about? We talked about the beginning, right? Part
we
one.
we spoke about the beginning. We spoke about her coming into the coming into the IRS office, and that's where basically everything goes down, where
Yeah,
her husband from another universe takes over the body of the current husband and
yeah.
informs her that there's a great danger lurking and we need you to help us. And in that moment, she's like, what's the matter with you? Why are you behaving like this?
Oh, by the way, another
Yeah.
thing that I loved about loved about was their decision to show her. the alternate version's history in the beginning only. Like she
Hmm.
gets to know everything about that version, and
Yeah.
after that she decides to, like, if she wants to be that version of.
Yes. Yes.
That's so
He
cool.
gives her access
Where,
to everything.
especially because she is someone who's regretting things in her life right now, so
Hmm.
they give her the choice to select what she wants to.
Which is kind of, if you think about it, it's there's a bit of gamification to it, where, and that's the beauty of it. There is a dialogue between her and this husband who's come from, I think, the main universe, where they can see that there is something going down right now that's basically going to involve destroying her.
Mhm.
He tells that to her. He's like, you are the worst version of yourself, the absolute failure of
Ah,
failure.
oh, chills. That scene was chills.
And she's like, there are worse versions. It's like, no, no, you are the, somehow with everything you have, you are the worst version of yourself. And that's why we picked you. And that's the
It wasn't
storyline.
the Yeah, it wasn't the path chosen. It was the path that she did not take.
Yeah. That she did
Every
not take.
every single point in her life.
And there is a, um I don't know, when you look at Evelyn's character and you look at how ultimately her being the worst version of herself is also, uh I think there is one storyline where she's in a soap opera kind of a situation, and she gets serenaded by a person who's like very heroic and lovely, and there's a soap opera version of her as well. Remember, every time she looks at the television, she thinks that she's in that show. And wait, you have not seen that part?
Because I've seen the movie, I don't remember. I only
Okay, so
remember
whenever
the Indian chick being that show. I don't remember him.
okay, so we have to keep in mind that this is the genius of the story. Everything that she looks at, that she's fascinated by, there is a universe with her in that version.
Yeah, yeah.
So if there's a TV show, there is a universe where she is the heroine of the TV show. If there is an IRS officer that's making her life miserable, there is a universe where they are lovers
Hmm.
and they are together and
Yeah.
she's happy. And keep in mind, she's dating a woman in this universe. So you would think that, oh, is this how they're going to reveal that she's going to be more supportive of her daughter and more loving and caring of her daughter's gay relationship? But no, that's not how they open that part. Then the
Imagine
part
her
where
Imagine her saying like, now I understand. I'm gay.
right, because that's like they literally, if you think about it, like the gamification of it, the reason she works in every universe is because she has endured so much hardship and failure in one that she will succeed in the others. So the part where she chooses to not go with her husband, and she learns under a kung fu master, and she learns so many skills that she ends up becoming like this heroine slash action filmmaker type personality who wins all the awards and is very successful no matter what she does. And in that universe, when she sees her husband, or her, not her husband in that thing, but her lovers, and she meets him, and the first thing she says is, you should be crying and lonely somewhere because we didn't end up together. And he's like, no, I'm successful in this way, and I made money in my businesses through this way. And the realization that no one is the actual cause of your failure, that him
Hmm.
not marrying her was also good for him.
Hmm.
It's not that people are mooching off of her, waiting for her to figure out, like, her life so that they can live off of her. Like, no, like in that universe where they're not together, they're not married, her daughter doesn't exist. And she looks at him and she's upset, kind of like low-key disappointed. that he is, you know, successful and happy. And he's like, I just came to see you because, you're doing so well. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to congratulate you. I hope you got what you were looking for. And that's the beauty of the story, that ultimately she married a man who loved her that way. That even in a universe where she ditches him, he still supports her from a distance. He still supports her by watching her films, by showing up at her premieres. Like, what a I have I hope somebody goes into detail someday about, being able to, I don't know, like build, like write a movie from his perspective.
Yeah.
Like, because I would love to know what Evelyn's husband was up to. Like, why did he become the person handling these
I
universes?
would not be surprised if if it's the same character from Goonies, Data from Goonies growing up to become
Ah,
Wayman.
become vehement. Can you imagine? But yeah, the I adored.
That's what I was saying, right? Like uh you've seen these type of movies where the character thinks that they're regretful of every decision that made in their lives, and then they meet the best version of themselves, and
Yes.
then they want to experience everything. But usually in these type of movies, what happens is they eventually realize that this thing is not fully perfect, and that did not happen here. You do not see any flaws in the
Mm-hmm.
best version of her. She
Mm-hmm.
wants to know, she wants everything that she has.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but still she chooses to go back to her action.
Yes.
That was
She
good.
does. She chooses to go back to her actual life. And I think, um let's talk about the daughter actually. There's a
Hmm.
reason she chooses to go back to her actual life. So there's a universe where the movie that she's performing in, that she's getting the awards for in the other universe, is also another universe. So
Ah,
there's a point in the story where no matter what she does, in some universe that is her actual life.
yeah,
And she realizes, through like experiencing all these different places, and when she comes back to reality, that's the first thing she tells her husband, like, like, I saw a world where you and I never got married and I was so happy over there. That's the first thing she tells him. And
hmm,
he's like, he's like coming in and out of this place because he's also jumping universes with her. So you can see the disappointment in his face, and the fact that he's like literally, he loves her, but she's not leaving any scope for him to, like even consider that she still loves him. And the part that their love made Joy, made their daughter. So there is a main universe where she learns how to jump universes, right? That's where the problem starts.
yeah.
That Evelyn learns how to jump universes, learns how to shift realities to her favor. And she starts training her daughter to do the same. But she pushes her daughter. And I don't know, but I feel like this was an ode to, um, mental well being and mental wellness, and sometimes what kids go through.
Yeah, totally right. Like, why
Yeah.
does she want to end the universe? Because
Yeah.
she knows that no matter what universe that she goes to, she's seen everything, right? So no matter
Yeah.
what universe she goes to, she looks at that universe, and she doesn't see any point in being in any of the universes. Everything is pointless, which is why it was the hardest for Evelyn to convince her,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And shit, I was talking about something. Oh, by the way, when they made the Ratatouille reference,
Yeah.
remember she says that it reminded me of that movie. So Joy and Waymond are sitting,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the first time she references Ratatouille. Okay?
Yeah.
And she said, It reminded me of that movie." and they say Ratatouille. Okay, I thought they were talking about Matrix because up till that point, it actually made sense, right? Because she's seen as someone who can change the world. She's seen as the one and who's figured shit out. And there's a villain who's after her, who's obviously like seen everything, who's like the master of all the universes. So I
I
thought they were
see.
actually when they paused before they said Ratatouille, I thought they were gonna say Matrix. They are going to be meta about it, but no, they said Ratatouille.
I see. But she doesn't say rat, right? She says something else. Like there's
She
a
says something else, but
raccoon or
they
some.
say Ratatouille, and then she says no, it's not Ratatouille. It's uh,
But I feel like that's the first instance that shows that her universes have actually bled into her current universe.
uh,
Because they understand that it's about a rat, but she doesn't. And she's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, not the rat. Like there's something. And she keeps arguing with them because
That's
in
what.
some universe there is a raccoon.
Ah,
And
Ra-
there's a
raccoon.
chef. She's a chef in Benihana.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a Benihana chef that's doing really well. Like no matter what he does, he's like so good at everything. And then they find out that's because there's a raccoon or a possum or something on his head that helps him. Helps him. Or is it a
Raccoon.
squirrel?
Raccoon.
Or is it a squirrel?
No, it's a raccoon. Raccoononi
Uh,
or something. So
I
how many
honestly
references did you spot?
Pixar reference. Now that you mention it, I guess a Matrix reference. But for me, the Matrix reference is the entire universe. The entire
Yeah, yeah.
universe is a not Matrix
Yeah,
because it's
let's just uh say it right away. Like this movie doesn't
actually
exist if Matrix doesn't exist.
which is accurate, but you know what, this movie, and this is why I love this movie, took one small little focal point in the Matrix. I think it's in the second movie where what is the so Neo has a woman that he's in love with. What is her name? Trinity basically sees a helicopter and she's like, I
First one.
don't know how to fly that. Or the first one said, I don't know how to fly that.
Uh,
And then the person who's like, tapping away in the background
yeah.
goes, wait a second. And then her eyes, like she starts fluttering her eyes. She's like, okay, got it, let's go. And then she goes and she starts flying the helicopter. I feel like they took that one nuance and they just expanded on the
Yeah.
storyline. Like, where did go? Like, what did she do? Like, why is she? And they show that constantly that her husband in the main universe who's fighting off this villain is kind of like, you know, kind of clicking on different things, like clicking on different options for her to be able to explore. Like
Yeah.
literally, like how characters in games explore their different weapons and different options before they settle to fight. I just love that they expanded on such a small little detail in the Matrix, because people talk about the training in Matrix, but then the other little things that happen while they are inside of it, nobody actually understands like why they suddenly pick up skills the way they do. So I
And
think like
most
there
of the
is.
laughs are because of that. The way they acquire those
Mhm.
attributes, like the weird things that
Mhm.
they have to do. What was your favorite? Was your most? What did you think was the most funniest of the way they acquired these skills? For me, it was
What
the
was
what did you think was like your most funniest uh, ways in which they acquire these attributes, where they jump universes? Like for
the
example,
funny?
one like they have dildo stuck up their ass.
They have, yeah. Yeah, like they try to jump universes by having a dildo stuck into their ass. Like, yep, literally they try to
Yeah,
find, not it's not dildo. It's pretty much any object that could go up their ass. And they
yeah.
try to jump universes by trying to land on that. And you can see that Evelyn is
Oh,
trying to stop them from doing that. I thought even the part where her daughter first gets introduced. So her daughter basically gets introduced as the antagonist in the storyline, and
oh,
how she's
what?
costumes.
Uh, What
What an
an entry for
entry!
a villain, man. When I saw
What
that,
a
is
villain!
like I already think this is one. She's one of the best villains in like of all time.
Yeah, yeah. Like her, the way, first of all, her costumes. I would love to have a whole segment about just talking
Um,
about. I have never in the entirety of my life seen a villain that truly descended as the villain they are.
uh,
Like how she has dressed up in every situation, and also villains are like, they are not, there are very few villains that are stealth, that are working in the background. Most of the time you see villains who are like, like out there, and they're so overconfident that they're going to win, that they kind of make a complete show of it. And she is like very symbolic of that, like a villain who's going to make a complete show of events. And the second she meets this version of her mother, that's the first thing she tells her, right? Like,
mhm.
so you don't remember what you did to me? And you're like, wait. So she's not just a villain, like she has a backstory immediately. Like the second they introduce her, you know that she's a villain because in some universe her mother broke her brain, and that's why she feels everything everywhere all at once. So everything around her becomes a weapon. Everything around her is a skill set that she can use to defeat her people. That's why she's
She
the
doesn't
perfect
find,
villain.
yeah, she doesn't find purpose in it.
She doesn't find purpose in
And
anything.
the main boss fight is confrontation, something that villains don't want.
Yeah, yeah. Main boss fight is confrontation. Like literally, oh God, the main fight between the mother and Joy, between Evelyn and Joy, is her saying that, like, well, nothing matters, and that's why I'm going into this deep void. And the mother will like almost let her child go into that void before actually talking about what matters, which again, little I don't know if they watched Zindagi Na, not Zindagi, Dil Dhadakne Do, but
Oh
the
yeah,
scene where
but like
where
we're talking about Asian parents, right? So
I
it's
know,
the
but
same everywhere.
it's the same. That's true. It is the same everywhere. But I feel like when you watch this movie, you think about. Also, I feel like actually, let's talk about this. There is a generation of filmmakers that are now coming out and realizing that everything is not about finding your great love, your lost love, your perfect love, your whatever, right? There is also a love that you share with one of the most impossible people in the world, your parents. Like you love them, you have to address that they are inflicting trauma on you because they have also borne some kind of trauma, and they don't know that they're inflicting trauma on you through their behaviors. So there is a part of you that is sympathetic towards them, where you are their parent because of that. And at the same time, there's a part of you that absolutely detests that they can't see so evidently that they are doing to us what their parents did to them. And there is something to that, because in Dil Dharakne Do, Shefali's character, she runs away to marry her husband,
Oh,
and yep, and she's facing these decisions where she's living a very plush life, very luxurious life, but her husband doesn't love her or care for her anymore. And that's that scene where the kids are like just sitting over there, and one of the, I think Priyanka Chopra wants to file for divorce, and the father immediately says, today's kids don't have our values. And the son immediately calls him out and he goes, your values? You think we don't know that you have affairs with other women and you cheat on our mom? And that part is, I don't know. I feel like that when I saw that, I immediately thought about Dil Dhadakne Do. I thought about all these movie makers, these storytellers who are now coming out in the open and talking about, love which comes from family, trauma which comes from family, and the part where Joy is in love with a person, like they don't talk too much about. They just, we know that she's dating somebody, that she's in love with somebody, but they don't go into the semantics of that. In fact, now that I think of it, the universes don't address who she's in love with, the daughter,
yeah,
because the
it
daughter is after her mother in every
that's
universe.
what, right? Like no matter what universe she goes to, she doesn't see any point because in every universe
Yes.
she's undermined.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's not.
Yeah.
She cannot be herself. Basically,
No. No. She cannot be herself.
I love that
She
line.
has. Oof.
When we see like West stories, it's about
Hmm.
underindulgence. East Asian Asian movies are overindulgence.
Wow. I I have to give it to the actress. She she plays this very snobbish
You know who she
mother-in-law.
is, right? Uh,
Yeah, from Crazy Rich Asians. She's Michelle Yeoh.
no, no, no. I'm talking about Joy. You know who she is?
Yeah, she plays the love interest of
Yeah, she
what's his
plays
name?
May. May in Marvelous Miss.
May in Marvelous Miss May. Yeah, she's first of all, she's everywhere, and you can't tell that she's actually everywhere all at once. Like her, she's a fantastic actress.
Wow.
Like she's truly
Maybe she does jump, in real life also.
she she is a fantastic actress. Like uh do you remember her reaction when her mother goes, I am your mother? And they have that Star Wars reference, and she's like looking at her mother, like, what's the matter with you? Like, why would you talk this way to me?
They
And
both better
also,
get nominated this.
they better get nominated. I hope that there is every category of um uh like of actors and actresses, right? Like, and this is the problem. I don't know how they're going to nominate Joy's character. Her name is Stephanie Sue. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She basically is she I am yet to see a still in that movie where she has like failed us, in the sense, when she's overtaken by the villain part of her, she plays that like to the T. And when she realizes that there is some universe where she's not herself, that she means harm to her mother, you can see that she's living that experience and she's traumatized by it, because she's mad at her mother in the current universe, but she doesn't want to harm her in any way. And that realization, right? Because I feel, I don't know if this has happened to anybody, but when you are in an argument with your parents, you tend to go to very dark places in your mind. And especially if you feel controlled by your parents, or if you feel like they just treat you like a possession, uh, you go into some dark places in your brain, and like some really ugly words come out because of that. And you can kind of see that that's how she reacts when she realizes that she's not herself anymore, that there is some version of her that is controlling her and her actions in the current universe. And she's visiting the dark portion of her brain where these ugly words are coming out against her mother, and she doesn't know how to address that. Like, you can see her helplessness in that moment. She does just a fantastic job. Like,
There was
her
Michelle Yeoh, man. I did not. I think yeah, Crazy Rich Asians, but I did not see her anywhere after Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, I guess you're right. She was in Shang-Chi recently, right?
Yeah, she was in Shang-Chi.
And wasn't she also in Memoirs of a Geisha?
Right.
Uh, I think, yeah, she was definitely in that as well. Uh,
But we haven't ever known her for her acting skills. I think this was so many years later. This became a breakout role. That's sad.
yeah, which is sad. She didn't get her due for like a very long time. Weirdly, she was also in Guardians of the Galaxy.
What? What did she play?
She played a character called Aleta. Oh God. Um,
No idea.
yeah, but she wasn't married something. But
Okay.
it doesn't matter. What matters
Okay,
is
we
that
were
she's
hitting the hour mark. Anything else we
okay.
want to discuss?
Uh, I want to discuss the daughter's perspective very heavily in the upcoming. I want to talk about Jenny Slate's cameo
Oh
as
yeah.
the girl who came to get her stuff from the laundromat. And the second she enters, the protagonist goes, "Oh my, big nose." The second she enters, which is like, wow, how are they putting this in? But you can kind of see that, I don't know. There's a lot to talk about the daughter. Actually, there's a lot to talk about the father still.
Hmm.
There's a lot to talk about the husband still, because there are parts of his reality which are still very dependent on making sure that Michelle Yeoh's character, Evelyn, stays alive, and he will literally sacrifice himself for her, even in the main universe. So just saying, there's still a lot to unravel. We've only, I think we've barely
In the
scratched what
Rock
Evelyn
universe,
wants.
we haven't touched the Rock universe.
The rock universe where you just coexist as rocks, and now there is nothing but rocks everywhere.
All right, cool. Let's wrap this episode.
Okay.
If you like, if you get like a lot of likes, we'll release it far sooner than what we're planning. Anything else you want to say before we hit the stop?
I think we're going to release it regardless of likes. I want these makers to know that I took like a proper hour or so to talk about their movie, because that's how impactful their movie was. But yeah, like, guys, please, have a listen. Let us know if there are certain aspects of the movie you guys want us to talk about, like that we have missed, probably that we have been so overwhelmed by so many other details. We must have missed details that you have seen. So do let us know.
Yep. All right. Ciao.